Welcome back to PHP Interview Questions Part 3. This part covers the most asked and most important advanced PHP topics including OM queries, design patterns, REST APIs, caching, performance, and security. These questions separate junior developers from senior developers in real interviews. Q21. What is the N+1 query problem in PHP and how do you fix it? The N+1 problem is the most common performance bug in PHP applications. It happens when you load a list of records and then run one extra database query for each record. Inside a loop. If you have 100 users and load their orders inside a loop, PHP runs one query for users plus 100 queries for orders equals 101 total queries. With 1000 users that becomes 1001 queries and your app crawls. A. Always use eager loading in your OM. In Laravel use the with method to load relationships in a single join query. This reduces 1001 queries down to just 2 queries regardless of how many records you have. N+1 problem and eager loading fix. Q22. What is the repository pattern in PHP and why do interviews ask about it? The repository pattern separates your database query logic from your business logic. Instead of writing eloquent or PDO queries directly inside controllers or services, all database access goes through a repository class. This pattern is asked in every senior PHP interview because it tests architectural thinking. Controllers should not know whether data comes from MySQL, Redis, or an API. A. Create an interface for each repository. Inject the interface into your service. The service never touches the database directly. This makes unit testing trivial because you can inject a fake in-memory repository. Repository pattern with interface. Q23. How do you write optimized raw SQL queries in PHP with PDO? While ORMs are convenient, senior developers must know how to write raw SQL for complex reports, bulk operations, and performance-critical queries that an OM cannot generate efficiently. Raw queries with PDO prepared statements give you full SQL power while remaining completely safe from injection attacks. You also control indexes, joins, and execution plans directly. A. Use PDO prepare and execute for all parameterized queries. Use fetch all with PDO fetch association for arrays. Use fetch for single rows. Use row count after insert update delete to check affected rows. Optimized raw SQL queries with PDO. Q24. What is caching in PHP and what are the different caching strategies? Caching stores the result of expensive operations so the next request returns instantly without hitting the database or running heavy calculations again. There are 4 main strategies. Full page caching stores entire HTML responses. Object caching stores model results in Redis or memcached. Query caching stores database results. Opcode caching stores compiled PHP bytecode using OP cache. A. Cache aggressively at the right layer. Use OP cache always in production. It is free and doubles PHP speed. Use Redis for object and query caching. Set appropriate TTL values and always invalidate the cache when data changes. PHP caching with Redis and cache aside pattern. Q25. How do you build a secure REST API in PHP? A REST API must handle authentication, validation, proper HTTP status codes, and protection against common attacks. This is one of the most asked questions for mid to senior roles. Use JWT tokens for stateless authentication. Validate all input with filter_var or a validation library. Return consistent JSON responses with correct HTTP status codes. Rate limit requests to prevent abuse. A. Every API endpoint must validate input. Authenticate the request. Check authorization. Handle errors gracefully. And return proper status codes. Never expose stack traces or internal errors to the client. Secure REST API endpoint in PHP. Q26. What are PHP design patterns and which ones are most used in Laravel? Design patterns are proven solutions to common software problems. Interviewers test this to see if you can write maintainable, scalable code beyond just making things work. The singleton pattern ensures only one instance of a class exists. The factory pattern creates objects without specifying the exact class. The observer pattern lets objects subscribe to events. Laravel uses all 3 heavily. A. In Laravel, the service container is a singleton. Eloquent model creation uses the factory pattern. Events and listeners use the observer pattern. Understanding these patterns helps you work with any framework effectively. Singleton, factory, and observer patterns. Q27. What is PHP OP cache and how do you optimize PHP performance in production? PHP normally reads, parses, and compiles your PHP files on every single request for a large application with hundreds of files. This compilation step is a huge waste of CPU time. OP cache stores the compiled bytecode of your PHP files in shared memory. On the next request, PHP skips parsing and compilation entirely and runs the cached bytecode directly, making PHP 2 to 4 times faster. Always enable OP cache in production. Set op cache, memory consumption to at least 256 megabytes. Set op cache, validate timestamps to 0 in production so PHP never checks file modification times. Use opcache reset only after deployments. OP cache config and performance best practices. Q28. What is XSS and CSRF and how do you prevent them in PHP? XSS or cross-site scripting happens when an attacker injects malicious JavaScript into your page. If you echo user input without escaping it, the browser executes the attacker's script and can steal session cookies. CSRF or cross-site request forgery tricks a logged-in user's browser into making an unwanted request to your server. The server cannot tell the request came from a malicious site because valid session cookies are sent automatically. Prevent XSS by always escaping output with HTML special chars. Prevent CSRF by adding a hidden token to every form and verifying it on submission. Laravel handles both automatically with Blade and the CSRF token directive. XSS and CSRF prevention. Q29. How do you handle file uploads securely in PHP? File upload vulnerabilities are one of the most dangerous attack vectors in PHP. An attacker can upload a PHP file disguised as an image and execute arbitrary code on your server. Never trust the file extension or MIME type provided by the browser. Always validate the actual file content using PHP functions. Store uploaded files outside the web root or in cloud storage like S3. Validate file size. Use finfo to check the real MIME type from the file content. Generate a random file name. And never store files where they can be accessed via URL as PHP. Use S3 or similar storage in production. Secure file upload in PHP. Q30. What are PHP enums and how are they better than class constants? Before 8 Philippine pesos and 10 centavos, developers used class constants or plain integers to represent fixed sets of values like order, status or user roles. There was no type safety. You could pass any integer, even invalid ones. 8 Philippine pesos and 10 centavos introduced native enums, and enum is a special type that restricts values to a defined set. Backed enums have a scalar value like string or integer. Pure enums have no backing value. Both provide full type safety. Use enums everywhere you have a fixed set of values. They provide IDE auto-completion, type safety, and can have methods and implement interfaces. They also work perfectly with match expressions. 8 Philippine pesos and 10 centavos enums, pure and backed. That is a wrap for PHP Interview Questions Part 3. We covered the N+1 problem, repository pattern, raw SQL with PDO, caching, REST API security, design patterns, OP cache performance, XSS and CSRF prevention, secure file uploads, and 8 Philippine pesos and 10 centavos enums. These are the exact topics that get you hired. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment with which topic you want Part 4 to cover next. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video on Can You Predict the Output? PHP Interview Challenge number 3 Exploding Head. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next part. Drop your answer in the comments below and see you in the next video.
Here is your knowledge check question. Which PHP feature allows a class to use multiple code blocks without inheritance? Drop your answer in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for part 2. See you in the next video.